It was 3 a.m. when I heard a woman scream, a cut-off scream as if someone had covered her mouth halfway through. I got up trembling, and when I opened my bedroom door, I saw two men in white coats dragging her down the hallway. I thought it was just a weekend getaway, a gift from my son, a luxury spa where I was going to rest, get massages, eat well for 2 days, and go back home. But that night, I understood everything. When one of the men turned and saw me standing there, he said nothing, he just smiled and locked the basement door. That was the moment I knew. It was not a weekend, it was a trap, and I was never going to get out. If this story gives you chills, subscribe to William's Revenge Stories. Every day I upload a true story that could be your grandfather's, your father's, or yours tomorrow. Let me know where you are watching this from. My name is Arthur Sterling. I am 82 years old. I was a physics professor for 40 years at the State University, and that day when my son picked me up in his new truck, I was happy. The sun was coming through the window, and I felt that finally things were going to be okay. "I have a surprise for you, Dad," he told me, smiling. "A surprise?" He nodded. "Yes, a birthday present. You deserve it." I got excited like a child. My heart beat faster. I did not remember the last time someone had given me a gift. Michael never gave me gifts. Since Eleanor died more than 30 years ago, he barely visited me. But that day, he seemed like the son I remembered. "Where are we going?" I asked. "You will see." And he drove for an hour until we reached a huge iron gate. The sign said, "Serenity Valley Wellness Spa." My heart filled with hope. The gate opened automatically. We entered a path surrounded by perfect gardens, flowers of all colors, water fountains, the scent of roses mixed with the sound of falling water. It was like a dream. "Michael, this looks very expensive," I said nervously. He laughed. "Do not worry, Dad. Everything is already paid for. It is an exclusive spa for seniors. Massages, therapies, gourmet food, meditation classes. It is 2 days and 2 nights. You're going to rest like a king. 2 days. That sounded perfect. I lived alone since Eleanor died. I cooked badly, the house was dirty, my knees hurt more every day. They hurt so much that sometimes I could not get out of bed without holding on to the wall. 2 days of pampering sounded like a dream. "Son, you do not know what this means to me." My voice broke a little. I felt like crying with happiness. Michael touched my shoulder. "You deserve it, Dad." But he did not look at me when he said it. I should have noticed it then. We got out in front of a huge 2-story house, white like a hospital, with columns and large windows. A woman came out to receive us. Immaculate white coat, tied back black hair, magazine smile. Her heels clicked on the marble floor. "Welcome, Mr. Sterling. I am Brenda Vance, coordinator of Serenity Valley Spa. It is a pleasure to have you with us." She shook my hand. Her hands were cold, cold as ice. It gave me a chill, but I ignored it. We entered a lobby that smelled of lavender, mixed with something chemical. Everything shone, too bright, too clean, like a new hospital. "Mr. Sterling, I need you to hand over your cell phone, your keys, and your wallet, for security. Everything will be in the safe." I hesitated. "My cell phone, too?" She smiled wider. "It is part of the disconnection experience. Here you come to forget about the outside world." I looked at Michael. He nodded. "It is okay, Dad. It is normal." I handed everything over. I saw how she put everything in a manila envelope and locked it in a drawer. I heard the click. Definitive. How naive I was. Brenda took me to a large room. "While we process your registration, you can wait here with the other guests." There were other old people sitting in beige leather armchairs. 5, maybe 6. No one spoke. Everyone watched a turned-off television. It was weird. In a spa, there should be relaxing music, people smiling, right? But there was silence. A heavy silence. The kind of silence you feel at funerals. A lady with curly white hair stared at me. Her eyes were wide open, looking scared. Her hands trembled in her lap. She moved her lips slowly, without sound. I got a little closer. She repeated the movement, and then I understood what she was saying. Leave. Get out of here. Her eyes were pleading. She had tears in the corners of her eyes. I felt a chill, but Michael pulled my arm. Come on, Dad. Do not pay attention to her. She is confused. Brenda returned with a folder and a green plastic bracelet with my name on it. The bracelet was like the ones in the hospital. I should have noticed that too. Ready, Mr. Sterling. Everything is in order. Michael stood up. Well, Dad, I have to go. I will see you on Sunday afternoon to pick you up. He hugged me quickly from the side. I squeezed him tight. He smelled of his expensive cologne. He smelled of success. He smelled like my son. Thank you, son, really. This is the nicest thing you have done for me. I felt my eyes get wet. He let go quickly. So fast that he almost made me lose my balance. It is nothing, Dad. Rest. And he walked towards the door. I followed him with my gaze. He got into his truck and drove off fast, kicking up dust. He did not turn back, not even once. I stood there with the bracelet on my wrist, feeling something strange in my chest. Like when you know something is wrong, but you do not know what. Eleanor always said, Trust your instincts, Arthur. I should have listened to her. Come, Mr. Sterling, let me show you your room. Brenda guided me up some stairs that creaked. The smell of lavender became stronger, almost dizzying, as if they wanted to cover up another smell. We reached a long hallway with numbered doors. She opened number 7. Your suite. It was small, a single bed with white sheets, a nightstand, a wardrobe without a mirror, and a window with black bars. Thick bars, like prison bars. I stared at the bars. Why does it have bars? Brenda did not lose her smile. Many of our guests have sleep problems and sleepwalking. It is for safety. That made sense, I suppose. And if I need something at night? There is a buzzer next to the bed. Someone will come. She pointed to a red button on the wall. A button that looked like it had never been used. The bathroom is at the end of the hall. It closes at 10 at night. Closes? Yes, for maintenance. She said it so naturally, as if it were the most normal thing in the world, and left before I could ask more. I sat on the bed. The springs creaked. The mattress was hard. It smelled of dampness under the clean sheets. I took out my pocket watch that they let me keep. It was 3 p.m. I thought of Eleanor. She would have loved a place like this. When she was sick, she always said, Arthur, when I get cured, let us go to a spa, you and me, to rest. But she never got cured, and now I was here without her. I took out the photo I always carried in my wallet, Eleanor smiling on our wedding anniversary. I put it away quickly before they saw me cry. That night I went down to dinner. The dining room was large with long tables. The food looked good. Chicken and sauce, rice, salad, but it had no flavor, as if it lacked salt, or as if my taste buds no longer worked. Everything tasted like cardboard. The other old people ate quietly, without looking at each other. I tried to talk to the gentleman next to me. Good evening. How long have you been here? He looked at me scared and shook his head. I saw fear in his eyes, real fear. He kept eating. No one else spoke. I could not sleep that first night. I heard footsteps in the hall, many footsteps, doors opening and closing, and voices, low voices like arguments, muffled screams, crying, pleading. I got up and looked out the window with bars. The moon illuminated the back garden. Everything looked gray, like an old movie. I saw movement. An old man, skinny, barefoot, was climbing the stone wall. His hands were bleeding. He was leaving red stains on the white stone, and he was screaming with a desperate voice. Call my daughter. She does not know I'm here, please. 2 huge guys dressed in black appeared running. They grabbed him by the arms and pulled him down. The old man fell to the grass, twisting, crying. He grabbed the grass. He clung to the earth. No, let me go. I only came for 2 days. They dragged him towards a side metal door and shoved him inside. The door closed with a dull metallic thud. Final. My heart was beating so fast I could hear it. My hands were sweating. My mouth went dry. What had I just seen? Why was that man trying to escape from a spa? And why did he say I only came for 2 days? just like me. I went to bed trembling. The sheets were cold. I could not get warm. I tried to calm down. It is a misunderstanding, I thought. Maybe that gentleman is confused. Maybe he has dementia. But something inside me knew that was not it. Something was very wrong, and I had just walked into the biggest trap of my life. The trap was closed, and I had entered alone. I thought about ringing the buzzer, asking them to let me call Michael. But it was night, and something told me I should not make noise, that I should wait for the next day. Just one more day, and I would go home. The next morning I went down to the dining room early. My legs barely supported me. I had not slept at all. The old man who had tried to escape was sitting alone at a table. He had his arm bandaged, a huge bruise on his face, and his eyes red from crying. He ate mechanically, like a robot, without seeing what he ate. I approached slowly and sat in front of him. "Good morning." He looked up, surprised, as if he did not expect anyone to talk to him. "Good morning," he whispered. He looked around nervously. Then he leaned towards me and said very softly, "They are going to tell you I am crazy, that I got confused, that I fell by myself. Do not believe it." His voice trembled. His whole body trembled. "I am George Roberts. My daughter brought me here 3 months ago. She told me it was 2 days. 2 days, just like you." I felt my stomach freeze. 3 months? He nodded, and a tear fell on his plate. "No one leaves here, Arthur. No one." We ate in silence. He ate a hard bread with butter. I ate a cold oatmeal that tasted like nothing. I chewed, but I could not swallow well. It got stuck in my throat. When we got up to take the trays, George passed by me and put something in my pocket. He said nothing. He just kept walking, dragging his feet. He dragged them as if they weighed tons, as if he no longer had the strength even to lift them. I waited until I was in my room to see what it was. A paper folded many times. I opened it with trembling hands. It said with almost illegible handwriting, "Count the days. When you reach 30, you will no longer want to get out." I read the sentence 5 times. 30 days. But I was only going to be there 2 days. Tomorrow, Sunday, Michael would come for me. Tomorrow I would leave. I put the paper in my sock. I kept it close to my skin, as if it were my only secret, my only truth, and I tried to convince myself that George was wrong. But deep down, I already knew the truth. On Saturday afternoon, I asked to speak with Brenda. I needed to use a telephone. I needed to call Michael to confirm that he was coming tomorrow. They made me wait in her office for 40 minutes. When she arrived, she was carrying a thick folder. Mr. Sterling, what do you need? I want to use a phone. My son is coming for me tomorrow, and I want to confirm the time." Brenda sat down and smiled. That smile that already gave me chills. "Mr. Sterling, I think there is a confusion." She opened the folder. "Your son already spoke with us." "He extended his stay." I froze. "Extended? What does that mean?" She turned some papers towards me. "You will stay with us for 6 months. Everything is already paid in advance. 6 months." The room started to spin. "No, no, no, no. That is a mistake. I came for 2 days. My son told me." 2 days. Brenda closed the folder slowly. "Your son considered that you need more care time, and you signed the consent." I did not sign anything. She opened another page. There was a signature similar to mine, but I had never signed that. "Mr. Sterling, it is normal that at your age memory fails. But everything is in order." I stood up abruptly. "My memory is perfect. I did not sign that, and I'm leaving tomorrow." Brenda pressed a button under her desk. In seconds, Carl and Ray, the guards, entered. "Mr. Sterling is a little upset," she said calmly. "Help him return to his room." They grabbed me by the arms. "Let me go." But it was useless. They dragged me out. They locked me in my room. I heard the key turn from the outside. I started banging on the door. "Let me out! I did not sign anything. Call my son." No one answered. I banged until my hands hurt. I screamed until I lost my voice. Then I let myself fall onto the bed, trembling. 6 months. Michael had left me here for 6 months, and I I had signed something without reading it when I entered, trusting him, trusting my son. I remembered Brenda's rush to give me the papers. "Sign here, Mr. Sterling. It is just the registration." And I signed like an idiot, like a trusting old man who believed his son loved him. That afternoon they let me out for lunch. I went down with trembling legs. I sat next to Martha, the lady with gray hair who was always quiet. She looked at me sideways. "They already told you, right?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "The what? That you are not leaving? That you are staying for months?" I nodded without being able to speak. She let out a bitter laugh. "They told me the same thing. My daughter brought me for a relaxing weekend. I have been here 2 months. 2 months. But can you not call your family?" Martha shook her head. "They know, Arthur. Our children know perfectly well that they leave us here. And they charge. They charge a lot to keep us locked up." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Martha lowered her voice more. $6,000 a month. That is what the families pay. They tell them it is a government-subsidized program, that it costs almost nothing. But it is a lie. And with that money, Brenda and her partners get rich while our children get rid of us. I shook my head. Michael would not do that. He brought me as a gift. Martha touched my hand. Her eyes were full of sadness. I also thought that about my daughter, until I found the receipts hidden in her purse when she came to visit me. $6,000 a month, paid punctually, so that I do not go back to her house. A tear rolled down her cheek. They sold us, Arthur, and the worst thing is that they did it with a smile. That afternoon there was occupational therapy. They took us to a large room with wooden tables and gave us clay cups to paint. It was humiliating. I had taught physics at the university. I had published scientific articles, and now I was painting a cup like an elementary school child. No one protested. Everyone painted with their heads down like robots. In the corner, Samuel was crying silently. 85 years old, trembling hands, tears falling on the unpainted cup. A young girl, Lucy, passed by him with a tray of brushes. She did not look at him, as if he did not exist, as if crying was part of the decoration. I got up and sat next to him. "Samuel, what is wrong?" He took a while to answer. "My grandson turned 10 3 days ago. I sent him a letter with $20 for his gift. I gave it to Lucy to mail it." He took a wrinkled envelope out of his pocket, but I found it under my mattress when they cleaned. "They never sent it." He opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside, a letter written with shaky handwriting and the folded $20 bill. "He is going to think his grandfather forgot about him, that I do not love him any more." And he cried harder, hugging the envelope against his chest. I could not say anything. I just put my hand on his shoulder, because there were no words for so much pain. That night, lying in my bed, I understood everything. Nothing left this place. Not letters, not calls, not people. We were prisoners in a jail disguised as a spa, and outside our children lived calmly, free of us. I remembered when Michael was born. Eleanor was in labor for 12 hours. When they finally put him in my arms, so small, so perfect, I cried with happiness. "I am going to take care of you all my life," I told him. Always. But he did not tell me the same, because for him I was just a burden. A problem he solved with $6,000 a month, and that thought hurt more than any blow in the world. I got up in the dark. I went to the window. I grabbed the bars with both hands and pulled with all my strength. They did not move. I pulled again. Nothing. I pushed. The bars were welded to the concrete frame. My hands were scraped, bleeding a little. I let myself fall to the floor, panting, and there, sitting on the cold floor of my luxury prison, I cried. I cried like I had not cried since I buried Eleanor, because I had lost my son long before entering here. I had lost him the day he decided I was disposable. A scream pierced the night. "No, let me go. I only came for a weekend." It was Margaret, the lady who had warned me the first day. I opened my door a crack. 2 men in white coats were dragging her down the hall. She kicked, she cried, she twisted. "Call my family. I want to leave." "Your family knows you are here, Margaret." "No, my son said it was only 1 day." And then Brenda appeared. She walked slowly, with a syringe in her hand. "If you do not calm down, we are going to move you to the downstairs ward." Margaret screamed louder. Brenda stuck the syringe in her arm. Margaret stopped screaming. Her body went limp. They dragged her towards the metal door at the end, and she disappeared into the darkness. I closed my door slowly, with my heart jumping out of my chest. I got into bed and covered myself up to my head, like when I was a child and had nightmares. But this nightmare was real, and there was no Dad to come wake me up. Sunday arrived. I looked out the window all day waiting for Michael's truck, waiting for him to appear, for everything to be a misunderstanding, for him to tell me, "Let's go home, Dad." But he never arrived. Evening fell. Night came, and I was still there, locked up, betrayed, abandoned. I took out the paper George had given me. "Count the days. When you reach 30, you will no longer want to get out." I had been there 3 days. I had 27 left. 27 days to find a way out, or to break like the others. On Tuesday, an external visitor arrived, a woman in a blue suit, with a folder under her arm. I was in the garden when I saw her enter with Brenda. "It is Mrs. Robinson from Adult Protective Services," Martha whispered next to me. "She comes every 2 months to check that everything is in order." My heart accelerated. That was my chance. I waited for Brenda to get distracted talking to Carl. And then I ran. I ran as fast as my old legs allowed me. "Ma'am, Mrs. Robinson." She turned surprised. I arrived panting, holding onto the railing. "Please, I need to talk to you." "They have me here against my will." Brenda appeared immediately, smiling. "Mr. Sterling, how nice that you want to meet Mrs. Robinson." Her voice was sweet as poison. Mrs. Robinson looked at me with that expression I already knew, pity mixed with discomfort. "Mr. Sterling, nice to meet you. How can I help you?" I spoke fast, desperate. "They brought me here with tricks. They told me it was a weekend. My son abandoned me here, and they forged my signature. Please check the documents." Brenda cleared her throat. "Mrs. Robinson, allow me to show you Mr. Sterling's voluntary admission papers." She took a folder out of nowhere. She always had them ready. Robinson reviewed the papers with professional calm. I peeked over her shoulder, and there it was. A signature that looked like mine, but the letters were straighter. I always signed with the B, leaning to the left. That signature was not mine. "Ma'am, that is not my signature. I never signed that." Robinson looked at me with a tired expression. Brenda intervened with a soft voice. "Mr. Sterling, you signed on Friday when you arrived. Do you not remember?" She turned to Robinson. "Unfortunately, Mr. Sterling is going through cognitive deterioration. Sometimes he has memory gaps. His family brought him precisely for that." I felt the rage explode. I do not have deterioration. I am a university professor. I taught physics for 40 years. Brenda touched my arm with fake tenderness. "We know, Mr. Sterling, and it must be very hard to accept that things change. But we are here to take care of you." Robinson closed the folder. "Everything seems to be in order, Brenda." And she left, just like that, without looking back. I stood there watching my last hope get into her car and drive away. That afternoon, I locked myself in my room. I sat on the bed with my head in my hands. I remembered when I taught classes in the main auditorium of the university. 200 students listening to me explain the theory of relativity. They respected me. They sought me out to ask for advice. Some still wrote to me for my birthday. I was someone. I had a voice. I had dignity. And now no one believed me. A social worker saw me crying, asking for help, and only wrote something in her notebook. She surely wrote disoriented, patient, persecutory delusions. That is how they erase you. Not with violence, but with indifference. With that poor thing, he is confused. That turns you invisible. The next day, Brenda called me to her office. Mr. Sterling, I have to show you something. She put some medical papers in front of me. They were neurological studies, a complete diagnosis, progressive cognitive deterioration with episodes of confusion and temporal disorientation. Permanent hospitalization is recommended. It was signed by a Dr. Armstrong, neurologist. I read the document 3 times. I never went to that doctor. They never did these studies on me. Brenda sighed. Your son sent them to us, Mr. Sterling. He took you to the doctor 2 months ago. Do you not remember? I shook my head. That is false. I have not been to the doctor in a year. My last checkup was with Dr. Walters, my usual doctor. Brenda put the papers away. I am going to talk to your son to clear this up. But I knew she was not going to clear anything up. Everything was a lie. A perfect lie. That night I confronted her in the hallway. You know those documents are fake. Brenda stopped walking, turned towards me, and for the first time her smile disappeared. Mr. Sterling, your son signed a 6-month contract, paid in advance, and presented legal medical documents. I have no reason to doubt him. Her voice was cold, without emotions. And if I tell you that everything is a lie, she took a step closer, then I would tell you that it is you who is lying or confused. Either way, you stay here until your family decides otherwise. She looked me straight in the eye. Your son knows what is best for you, Mr. Sterling. And she kept walking. I stood there, feeling the ground open under my feet. That night I could not sleep. I went down to the common room. It was almost 11. I thought I would be alone, but there were others. George, Martha, Samuel, Margaret, and a new gentleman I had not seen. He was 70-something, white hair, sad eyes. He is Charles, Martha said. He arrived yesterday. We sat in a circle, like in a secret meeting. Charles spoke first. My son told me he would come for me today, but I called reception, and they told me there is no record of any call from him. His voice broke. He sold my house, the house where I was born, where I raised my children. He sold it and did not even tell me. Margaret sobbed. My daughter took my jewelry, the ones my mom left me before dying. She made me sign a paper saying I gave them to her. We all had the same story, children who could not take it anymore, children who erased us. Samuel raised his shirt sleeve. He had bruises on his arm, syringe marks. They give me pills every night, and if I do not take them, they inject them. They say it is for sleeping, but after taking them, I cannot think well. I cannot remember. George nodded. They have had me sedated for weeks. That is why I could not use the phone. Martha looked at all of us. They are erasing us little by little. They take away our memories, our dignity, the desire to fight. And when we are no longer useful, even to complain, they move us to the downstairs ward. A heavy silence fell over us. We all knew what she was talking about, but no one dared to ask what happened down there. I felt something I had not felt in days. Rage, pure rage. We were not patients. We were a nuisance, human trash that someone decided to hide in a pretty place so as not to have to see it. And Brenda. Brenda was getting rich with our pain. We have to get out of here, I said. But how? Asked Charles. She does not believe us. No one believes us. I thought out loud. We need proof, documents, something that proves this is a fraud. Martha shook her head. Everything is kept under lock and key in Brenda's office, and there are cameras in the hallways. Then we need outside help, I said. Someone from outside. Someone who believes us. But who? Who was going to believe a group of confused old people? George leaned forward. I know someone. A lawyer, a friend of mine from years ago. I left his number with Martha before they sedated me. Martha nodded and took a paper out of her bra. Henry Miller, labor lawyer. I felt something explode in my chest. Henry Miller? Martha looked at me surprised. Do you know him? He was my best friend in college. I haven't seen him in 15 years. But if there is anyone in this world who would believe me, it is him. For the first time in days, I felt something resembling hope. Small, fragile. But there. We have to call him, I said. George nodded. There is a way, but it is dangerous. George lowered his voice until it was almost a whisper. There is a phone hidden in the garden, next to the rose bushes, buried in a metal tin. I put it there 2 months ago. I stole the cell phone from Lucy when she fell asleep on the night shift. We all looked at him with wide eyes. But it only works at 5 in the morning. It is the only time the guards sleep. Carl makes rounds until 4:30. Ray starts at 6. There is a 30-minute window. I looked at the wall clock. It was 11:15. Tomorrow at 5, I said, and everyone nodded. We knew that if they discovered us, they would move us to the downstairs ward. But we had nothing left to lose. I set my mental alarm for 4:30 in the morning. But when I opened my eyes, the sun was already coming through the window. I looked at the clock, 8:20 in the morning. It could not be. I never slept that late. I tried to get up and the room spun. My head felt heavy as if it had stones inside. My mouth was dry, pasty, and then I understood. Last night's dinner. The orange juice they gave us. It had a weird taste, a little bitter. They put something in it. They sedated us so we could not use the phone. I dragged myself to the bathroom at the end of the hall. I splashed cold water on my face, but the dizziness did not go away. I went back to my room staggering, and when I passed the dining room, I saw something that froze my blood. George was in the middle of the room, struggling with 2 men in white coats. They were not Carl and Ray. They were others, bigger, rougher. "Let me go. I am not going anywhere," George screamed, kicked, twisted. But they had a good grip on him. Lucy was there with red eyes. They are going to transfer him to another unit. It is for his own good. No, it is a lie. They are going to kill me. George saw me. Our eyes met. "Arthur, tell them. Tell them I'm not crazy." I took a step forward, but my legs did not respond well. The other old people were sitting in their chairs, looking at the floor. No one moved. No one said anything. And I could do nothing but watch them take him away. "Wait," I said with a weak voice. "Where are you taking him?" One of the men looked at me with contempt. Ray appeared behind me and grabbed my arm. "Do not interfere, Grandpa, or you go next." He squeezed me so hard I felt like he was going to break the bone. "He has a right to know where they are taking him," I insisted. Ray pushed me against the wall. My back hit the concrete. Pain shot through me. "Look, old man, here we make the rules. Understood?" He let me go with a shove. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the floor. From there I saw how they dragged George towards the door. He kept screaming. He kept fighting. But he had already lost. I dragged myself to the hallway window. From there I could see the parking lot. I saw a white van without plates. The men opened the back door and pushed George inside like a sack of potatoes. He fell on his face. He tried to get out, but one of the men punched him in the stomach. George doubled over in pain. They put something in his mouth, a gag. They closed the door. The van started slowly, without haste, as if nothing was happening, as if they were not carrying a kidnapped man inside. I stayed glued to the glass, watching it drive away, and when it disappeared around the curve of the road, I let myself fall to the floor and cried. I cried like a child, because I had just seen them take away the only man who had had the courage to fight. I do not know how long I lay there on that cold floor. I just remember thinking of Eleanor on that last day in the hospital. The smell of disinfectant mixed with the perfume I put on her wrists so she would not smell only of medicine. The sound of the heart monitor. That beep, beep, beep that was getting slower. Her hands, so thin they looked like paper, holding mine with a strength I did not know where she got from. And that raspy voice, almost without air, telling me, "You do not give up, Arthur. Never. Promise me." And I promised her, with tears falling on her hand. I promised her I would keep going, that I would be strong, that I would never give up. But now I did not know how to keep fighting. I was old. I was tired. I was alone. And every day that passed here broke me a little more. What was the use of fighting if in the end they always won? What was the use of screaming if no one listened? Soft hands touched my shoulder. It was Martha. She said nothing. She just sat next to me on the floor and held my hand. We stayed like that, 2 old people sitting on the dirty floor of a hallway, holding hands like scared children. "They took him," I said with a broken voice. "I know," she replied. "Where do you think they took him?" She took a while to answer. "I do not know, but he is not coming back." We stayed silent, and for the first time in weeks I did not feel completely alone, because Martha was there, and although she could not save me, at least she did not let me fall alone. After a while, Martha put her hand in her bra and took out a folded paper. "George gave me this last night, before dinner." She unfolded it carefully. It was a sheet torn from a notebook. It had a name and a phone number written in shaky handwriting. "Henry Miller, lawyer, 555509, 2834. Underneath it said, "If something happens to me, call him. He will believe you." I grabbed the paper with trembling hands. Henry, my college friend, the only one I had left. "We have to call him," I said. Martha nodded, but we already lost the cell phone. George said if they discovered it, they were going to move him, and they moved him. I pressed the paper against my chest. There has to be another way. There has to be. That night during dinner, they gave us orange juice again. I smelled it. It had that same weird smell from last night. "Do not drink it," I whispered to Martha. She nodded. When Lucy was not looking, we emptied the glasses into the pots in the living room. Samuel and Charles did the same. Margaret was too scared and drank it. 20 minutes later, she started nodding off. They took her to her room like a zombie. But we stayed awake. "We have to find that phone," I said. "If George buried it in the garden, it must still be there." Martha looked at me. "The guards do not sleep until 5, and they discovered us last night because someone saw us leave. We have to be more careful." At 9 at night, Lucy passed with the medicine tray. "Mr. Sterling, your pill." She gave me a white pill and a glass of water. "Open his mouth to verify that he took it," said Brenda from the door. I opened my mouth. I put the pill under my tongue. I drank the water. I swallowed noisily. I opened my mouth again. Brenda nodded, satisfied. "Very well, Mr. Sterling. Rest." When they left, I ran to the bathroom. I spit the pill into the sink. It was half dissolved, bitter. But most of it came out. I rinsed my mouth 10 times. I had to be lucid. Tonight was my only chance. If I failed, I would end up like George, or worse. At 4:30 in the morning, Martha knocked softly on my door. We went out barefoot, walking close to the walls. The hallway cameras had a blind spot that George had discovered. If we walked crouched next to the baseboard, they did not see us. We reached the back door that led to the garden. It was locked, but Martha took a bobby pin out of her hair and put it in the lock. "My dad was a locksmith," she whispered. "He taught me when I was a girl." It took 3 minutes. The door opened with a soft click. We went out into the garden. The cold air hit my face. The rose bushes were at the back, next to the wall. We started digging with our hands. The earth was hard. My nails broke, but I kept digging, and then my fingers touched metal. I pulled out a rusty cookie tin. I opened it, trembling. Inside was an old cell phone, wrapped in a plastic bag. I took it out. It had 20% battery. I dialed the number George had left. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times, and then a voice, hoarse with sleep, answered. "Hello? Henry?" I said with a broken voice. "Henry Miller?" There was a pause. "Yes. Who is speaking?" I felt tears coming out. "Henry. It is me. Arthur. Arthur Sterling." Silence on the other end. And then, "Arthur, my God, where are you? If you have gotten this far listening to my story, leave me a comment telling me where you are listening from. Knowing someone hears me gives me strength to keep telling what happened. Henry, it is me. Arthur. Arthur Sterling." On the other end of the line, there was a long silence. Too long. I thought he had hung up. But then I heard his voice, hoarse, confused. "Arthur? Arthur Sterling from the university?" "Yes, Henry." "It is me." My voice broke. "I need help, please. I need you to help me." Henry took a while to answer. I could hear him moving, maybe sitting up in bed. Arthur, my God, has it been, what, 15 years? Yes, and I would be calling you to have coffee if I could. But I am locked up, Henry. I am being held captive. There was another pause. What? What are you talking about? And then I told him everything. Fast. Desperate. Whispering in the darkness of the garden while Martha watched the door. I told him about Michael's gift. About the spa that was never a spa. About the fake documents. About George being dragged into a van. About the old people medicated into oblivion. Henry listened without interrupting. He only made sounds from time to time. Uh-huh, I understand. Go on. When I finished, there was silence. A silence that scared me more than any scream. Henry, do you believe me? And then he said something that made me cry. Arthur, you were the most brilliant man I knew in my life. If you tell me something is wrong, I believe you, without doubts. I felt as if someone had turned on a light in the middle of the darkness. Where exactly are you? He asked. Do you have an address? A name of the place? I looked at Martha, desperate. She put her hand in her pocket and took out a crumpled paper. She had stolen it from Brenda's desk days ago. Sunset Pathways Foundation, I read aloud. Mile marker 47. Highway to High Valley. Henry repeated the address. I heard him writing. It is far from the city. Rural area. That complicates things. My heart sank. What do you mean? That I cannot simply show up with the police, Arthur. If they have documents that say you are there voluntarily, the police are not going to do anything. I need proof. Something solid that proves fraud, forgery, kidnapping. I looked at the cell phone. The battery was at 15%. How much time do you need? Henry sighed. Give me a week. I'm going to investigate. I'm going to look for the legal way to get you out. But I cannot file anything yet. A week, 7 more days in this hell. But it was better than nothing. Okay, Henry. A week. Arthur, take care. Do not do anything that puts you in danger. Do you hear me? Stay quiet. Obey. Do not give reasons for them to medicate you more. I am going to try. And Arthur? His voice softened. I am sorry for not having been in touch all these years. When Eleanor died, I should have gone to the funeral. I should have looked for you. I felt a lump in my throat. It does not matter, Henry. You are here now, and that is what counts. I am going to get you out of there, brother, I promise you. And he hung up. I stayed with the cell phone in my hand, trembling, feeling something I had not felt in weeks. Hope. Martha touched my arm. We have to go back. It is almost 5. We put the cell phone in the tin. We buried it again, covered everything with dirt. We crawled back to the back door. Martha put the bobby pin back in the lock. The door opened. We entered, and that was when I saw him. Carl. He was standing in the hallway, smoking a cigarette. The smoke rose slowly towards the ceiling. He saw us come out of the garden. He saw us with dirt on our hands. He saw us with guilty faces. My heart stopped beating. Martha grabbed my hand. Good morning, Mr. Sterling. Mrs. Martha. His voice was calm, too calm. Went out for a walk early, huh? I did not know what to say. My mouth did not work. I could not sleep, I finally said. I went out to get some air. Carl took a long drag on his cigarette. Uh-huh. And you, Mrs. Martha, could not sleep either? She nodded. I have insomnia. The doctor knows. Carl smiled. That smile that tells you he knows you are lying, but that he is going to let you keep lying because it amuses him. Sure, insomnia. He stayed quiet for a moment, smoking, watching us. Then he said, Well, return to your rooms. It is still rest time. And he stepped aside. We passed by him quickly without looking at him. I could feel his eyes digging into our backs. When we got to my room, Martha came in with me. He saw us, she whispered. I know. He is going to tell Brenda. I know. We sat on the bed, holding hands, waiting for what we knew was coming. We did not have to wait long. At 9 a.m, after breakfast, Lucy came to look for me. Mr. Sterling, Miss Brenda wants to see you in her office. My stomach tightened. What for? I do not know. She just asked me to bring you. I looked at Martha. She squeezed my hand. I will be here, she told me. I followed Lucy down the hall. Every step weighed on me as if I were wearing chains. We arrived at the office. Brenda was sitting behind her desk, hands clasped, smiling. That smile. Mr. Sterling, come in. Sit down. I sat in the chair in front of her. I felt as if I were in front of a judge waiting for my sentence. Mr. Sterling, I have noticed that you have been restless lately. Her voice was soft, almost maternal, but her eyes were stone. Restless? Yes. Carl told me he saw you this morning walking in the garden. That is not safe, Mr. Sterling. You could fall, hurt yourself. I swallowed. I could not sleep. I just went out to walk. Brenda nodded slowly. I understand. Insomnia is common at your age. That is why I have decided we need to adjust your medication. She opened a drawer in her desk, took out a syringe. It was big, full of a clear liquid. My heart started beating so fast I thought it was going to explode. I do not need medication, I said with a trembling voice. I think you do, Mr. Sterling. She stood up and started walking towards me with the syringe in her hand. I stood up abruptly. No, you are not going to inject me with anything. I took a step back. She took a step forward. Mr. Sterling, this is for your own good. No, I screamed. Do not come near me. I backed up until my back hit the wall. Brenda raised her hand to call the guards, but then the door burst open. It was Martha. She had red, furious eyes. If you touch him, she said with a strong voice, stronger than I thought she could speak, I scream. I scream so loud that everyone in this house is going to hear and come to see what is happening, and I am going to tell them that you are injecting people without their consent. Brenda froze, the syringe still in the air. Mrs. Martha, this is not your business. Yes, it is, because if today it is him, tomorrow it is me, and I am not going to let you keep treating us like trash. The two women looked at each other, and in that moment, Brenda knew she had lost, at least for now. Brenda lowered the syringe slowly. Okay, for now, only pills. She put the syringe back in the drawer. But Mr. Sterling, if you break the rules again, I am not going to be so understanding. Understood? I nodded without being able to speak. Now, both of you, out of my office. We left quickly. We walked down the hall without saying anything. When we reached the common room, I let myself fall onto an armchair. Martha sat next to me. Thank you, I said. It was nothing. You saved me. She looked at me with tired eyes. I did not save you, Arthur. I just gave you one more day, maybe two. But she is going to come back, and next time she is going to. I knew it. We both knew it. Time was running out, and Henry had to arrive before it was too late. That night I could not sleep. I stayed awake, looking at the ceiling, counting the days. I had been here 12 days. I had 18 left to reach the 30 that George had written in his warning, but I was not going to last 30 days. If Henry did not arrive soon, Brenda was going to find a way to shut me up, to drug me until I could not even remember my name, to move me to the downstairs ward where no one returns. I was about to fall asleep when I heard voices in the hall. I got up slowly and pressed my ear to the door. It was Brenda. She was talking on the phone. The old man already knows too much, she said. We have to move him before he talks. Yes, tomorrow. Prepare the ward. And my blood froze. The next morning, Samuel faked a faint in the dining room. He let himself fall from his chair, knocking over his plate, screaming that he could not breathe. Brenda and Lucy ran towards him. The guards, too. It was the perfect moment. Martha grabbed my arm. Now! We ran down the hall towards Brenda's office. The door was closed, but not locked. We entered. My heart was beating so fast, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Quick, said Martha. Find your file. It has to be here. There was a huge metal filing cabinet with 4 drawers. Each drawer had letters. AFGL Mr. SZ. I opened the MR drawer. Inside were folders organized by last name. I looked for S. Sterling, and there it was. Sterling Arthur. Arthur. I took out the folder with trembling hands. I opened it on Brenda's desk. Inside was everything. The voluntary internship contract that I supposedly had signed. 6 pages of small print that I never read. My forged signature on every page. But that was not the worst. Further down were receipts. Bank transfer receipts. $6,000. One each month. 6 monthly payments. $36,000 in advance. 6 months that Michael bought of my freedom before I even knew it was for sale. And on every receipt, the name of the depositor. Michael Sterling. My son. My only son. He had paid $36,000 to lock me up here for 6 months. $6,000 for every month I stopped being a nuisance in his life. I read the receipts 3 times, as if reading them again they were going to say something else. But no, they always said the same thing. Arthur, look at this. Martha had another sheet in her hands. I snatched it from her. It was a notarized document. Property transfer. It said that I, Arthur Sterling, in full use of my mental faculties, ceded the property of my house, located at 323 Maple Street, to my son, Michael Sterling. The date was the same day I entered here. The signature was mine, or almost mine, similar but not equal. I never signed that. Never. My house. The house where Eleanor and I raised Michael. The house where she died in my arms. The house full of memories, of photos, of her clothes still hanging in the closet because I did not have the heart to give them away. Michael kept everything, and I had nothing. I felt as if I had been hit in the chest with a hammer. My legs went weak. I had to hold on to the desk so as not to fall. Arthur. Martha held me, but I did not hear her. I only saw that paper, that fake signature, that date. I remembered when Michael was 10 years old and got pneumonia. He was in the hospital for 2 weeks. I slept in a chair next to his bed every night. I did not move from there. I missed work. I spent all my savings on doctors. And when he woke up, I hugged him and told him, "Son, there is nothing in this world more important to me than you." But for him, I was less important than a house, less important than his comfort, less important than anything. Martha kept searching in the folder. Arthur, there is more. She took out another paper. It was a medical report, neurological evaluation, patient, Arthur Sterling, diagnosis, severe progressive cognitive deterioration with episodes of aggression and paranoid delusions, immediate internship in specialized center recommended, signed by Dr. Armstrong. I never saw that doctor in my life. Never. This is all fake, I said with a broken voice. I know, replied Martha, but with this paper your son convinced the world that you are crazy and no one is going to believe otherwise. I remembered when I sold my car, the only asset I had left after paying for Eleanor's funeral expenses, to give Michael the down payment for his first apartment. It is your future, my son, I told him. But my future he did not care about. Arthur, look. Martha had another folder in her hands. It was thick, full of papers. She opened it. Inside was a list. Names, 43 names, all with the same information. Patient name, responsible family member name, admission date, monthly amount, notarized documents. I recognized some names. George Roberts, Martha Stevens, Samuel Miles, Margaret Fields. We were all there. We had all been sold by our families. $6,000 a month. Some had been there for years. Years paying to keep their parents, grandparents, uncles locked up in this place. It is a network, said Martha with a trembling voice. We are not the only ones. This is a business of selling old people. And I felt nausea, the urge to vomit, to scream, to break everything. We have to photograph this. Martha took an old cell phone out of her pocket, an old Nokia with a 2-megapixel camera. Charles had it hidden. He lent it to me this morning. She started taking photos. Photo of the contract, photo of the receipts, photo of the house document, photo of the list of names. The photos came out blurry, poorly lit. But you could read it. You could see the numbers, the names, the signatures. It was enough. It had to be enough. I also took photos. My hands trembled so much that some came out shaky, but I kept going, photo after photo, until we heard footsteps in the hall. Hurried footsteps. "They are coming," whispered Martha. "We have to go." We put everything back in the folders. We put them in the filing cabinet. We closed the drawers. We ran out of the office just as Brenda turned the corner of the hallway. "Hey, what are you doing there?" We did not answer. We ran. Martha in front, me behind, panting with my knees screaming in pain. We entered my room. We closed the door. We stood there against the door, breathing as if we had run a marathon. "Did she see us?" I asked. "I do not know." We heard Brenda walk towards her office. We heard her enter. There was silence, a long silence, and then we heard her leave, lock up, and walk in another direction. We breathed. "I think she did not realize," said Martha. I let myself fall onto the bed. My whole body trembled, but I had the cell phone in my pocket, with the photos, with the proof. Martha sat next to me. She showed me the photos on the small screen of the Nokia. "Now we have proof," she said. "Henry is going to be able to do something with this." I looked at the photos without really seeing them. I could only think about the receipts, about Michael's signature, about the $6,000 a month, about the house that was no longer mine. "Arthur, are you okay?" No, I was not okay. I was never going to be okay again. "My son," my voice broke. "My son sold me." Martha hugged me. I let myself fall against her shoulder and cried. I cried like I had not cried in my whole life. Because it is one thing to know your son abandoned you, but it is quite another to have the proof on paper. Seeing his name, signing the check for your confinement, seeing his signature on the document that takes away your house, your life, your dignity. That night I did not go down to dinner. I stayed in my room, lying down, looking at the ceiling. Martha stayed with me. We did not talk. We were just there. Two broken old people trying to put together the pieces of what was left of us. Around 10 at night, I heard voices in the hall. I got up slowly and pressed my ear to the door. It was Brenda. She was talking to someone on the phone, and what she said chilled me to the bone. The old man already knows too much. I checked the cameras. He entered my office. I do not know what he saw, but we cannot risk it. There was a pause. "Yes, we have to move him before he talks. Tomorrow. Prepare the transfer to the South Ward." And I knew exactly what that meant. I went back to bed, trembling. "Martha, they are going to move me tomorrow." She sat up straight. "Where?" "To the South Ward, the one downstairs." We looked at each other. We both knew what that meant. The ward from where no one returned, where they moved people who knew too much, who caused problems, who were no longer useful even to collect monthly payments, because they were too destroyed to protest. "We have to call Henry," said Martha. "He has to come now. There's no time to wait a week." I took out the paper with his number. I stared at it. Tomorrow. I only had until tomorrow. And then afterwards I was not going to be able to ask for help, because I was going to be so drugged that I was not even going to remember my name. The next day in the morning I heard Brenda talking on the phone in the hallway. Her voice sounded tense. "Yes, Michael. Your father is very upset. He entered my office yesterday. I do not know what exactly he saw, but he is asking questions. I think it would be good if you came to visit him. Sometimes patients calm down when they see their family." There was a pause. "Yes, I know you are busy, but it is important. Just an hour, so he sees that you are looking out for him." Another pause. "Perfect. Tomorrow at noon, then. Thank you, Michael." She hung up, and I understood. Michael was not coming for me. He was coming for her, to keep me quiet, to convince me that everything was fine, so that I would stop looking for the truth. But it was already too late. I already knew everything. That night passed. A whole night of terror, waiting for them to come for me. But they did not come. And then the next morning, Brenda called me to her office. I entered trembling, waiting for the worst. But she was smiling. That smile that already gave me nightmares. "Mr. Sterling, I have good news. Your son is coming to visit you today." I felt as if the floor disappeared under my feet. "Michael?" "Yes. He called yesterday. He said he wanted to see you. He arrives at noon." My heart started beating so fast I thought it was going to explode. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Michael did not know what was really happening here. Maybe when I told him everything he was going to believe me. He was going to get me out. He was going to take me home. For the first time in days, I felt something resembling hope. I went back to my room almost running. I borrowed a razor from Charles. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and shaved carefully. My hands trembled. I cut myself twice, but I kept going. I combed my white hair back. I washed my face with cold water. I put on the least wrinkled shirt I had. I wanted to look good. I wanted Michael to see that I was not crazy, that I was not confused, that I was still his dad, the same man who raised him. When I went down to the dining room before noon, Martha looked at me, and in her eyes I saw something that broke my heart, pity. "Arthur," she started to say, but I shook my head. "No, he is going to understand. He has to understand." She said nothing else. She just squeezed my hand. The other old people looked at me the same way, as if they knew something I did not want to accept. At 12 o'clock sharp, I heard the sound of an engine. I ran to the window. It was Michael's truck. He got out, dressed impeccably, as always. He entered the house. Brenda received him with hugs, as if they were old friends. They talked for a moment, laughed about something, and then he asked for me. I came out of the living room. I walked towards him. My legs trembled. "Michael." He turned. He smiled. That smile I knew since he was a child. "Dad, how are you?" And he hugged me, fast, without strength. How one hugs a stranger, but it was a hug, and I clung to him like a castaway to a plank. "Son, thank you for coming." We sat in the common room. Brenda brought us coffee. Michael drank his slowly, looking around. "This place looks good, right? Clean, quiet." I grabbed his hand. "Michael, I have to talk to you. There are things happening here that you do not know." He looked at me with that expression of tired patience. "What things, Dad?" I took a deep breath. "This is not a spa. It is a jail. They have us locked up. They forged my signature. They took my cell phone, my keys, my freedom. And you—" It was hard for me to say it. "You are paying $6,000 a month for them to keep me here." Michael sighed, put his cup on the table. "Dad, I already told you when I brought you. You are better off here. I cannot take care of you. I work a lot. I travel. I do not have time." I felt the desperation rising. "But I do not need you to take care of me. I can live alone. I have lived alone since your mom died." Michael shook his head. "Dad, I saw the documents. I saw the diagnosis. You have cognitive deterioration. The doctor said so." "What doctor?" "I never went to any doctor." My voice went up. Michael looked at Brenda. She was standing at the door observing. "See?" said Michael softly. "You get upset. You get confused. That is why you are here." I took out the paper I had hidden in my pocket, the photos Martha had printed on the Nokia, blurry but readable. "And this? Is this also confusion? The receipts? The payments? The transfer of my house?" I put the photos in his hands. He looked at them without any emotion, and then he did something I will never forget. He tore them up, slowly, one by one, and he let them fall to the floor. "Dad, you signed everything. You signed your admission here. You signed the transfer of the house. You agreed." His voice was flat, without emotions, as if he were talking about business. "You are old, confused, and we are just trying to help you. We—" He spoke in plural, as if he and Brenda were a team and I was the problem they had to solve. "I am not confused," I said between my teeth. "I was a university professor for 40 years. I taught quantum physics. I published research. My mind is perfect." Michael smiled, that condescending smile. Dad, all old people say that. No one wants to accept that they are not who they used to be. And he patted my hand, like one pats a child who does not understand. I felt the rage explode in my chest. You forged my signature. You sold my house. That is helping me. My voice sounded louder than I wanted. Michael stood up. He dusted off his suit. That house was mine anyway, Dad. Sooner or later, you were going to inherit it to me. I just anticipated the process. He said it so calmly, so naturally, as if stealing your father's house was the most normal thing in the world. Anticipated? I also stood up. That was my house. The house where your mother died. The house where we raised you. Michael sighed, annoyed. And now it is my house. And it is sold. I needed the money for a project. He adjusted his tie. Besides, you do not need it. Here you have everything. Food, roof, care. He turned to Brenda. Right, ma'am? She nodded, smiling. And I understood. They were partners in my destruction. I felt something break inside me. A pain that was not physical. It was worse. It was the pain of seeing your son turned into a stranger. I remembered the day he was born. August 29th, 1986. At 6 in the morning, he weighed 7 pounds. He cried loud. I cried louder. Eleanor put him in my arms. He was so small, so perfect, so fragile. He is our son. She told me, crying with happiness, and I looked at him and swore. I swore in that moment that I was going to protect him from everything, from the world, from poverty, from pain, from anything. I worked double shifts for years so he would lack nothing. I sold my car to pay for his college. I went without so he could eat. And now that baby I held in my arms was standing in front of me, with an expensive suit paid for with my house, smiling at me while he destroyed me. I have to go, said Michael, looking at his watch. A Rolex, also new. I have a meeting at 3. He took a step towards the door. I grabbed his arm. Michael, look at me. He tried to break free. Dad, I am leaving. Look at me, I screamed. Look me in the eye and tell me you know what they are doing to me here. Tell me you know they drug me, that they have me locked up, that they took everything from me. Michael looked at me, and in his eyes I saw no guilt. I saw no regret. I only saw annoyance, as if I were a difficult client. Take care, Dad, he said, and he pulled away. He walked towards the door. Michael, I screamed. Do not leave me here. Please. But he did not turn back. He got into his truck. He started it, and he left, just like that. Leaving me standing there in the entrance, screaming his name like a madman, my legs gave way. I fell to my knees on the floor, and I cried. I cried like I had not cried since Eleanor's funeral. I cried until I had no tears left, until only dry sobs remained that tore my chest apart. Martha came running. She knelt beside me. She hugged me. Okay, Arthur, okay. But I could not stop, because I had just lost my son, not because he had died, but because he had never existed. The son I thought I had. The good son, the grateful son. That one never existed. Only Michael existed, the man who sold his father for a house, for comfort, for $6,000 a month. Charles and Samuel also approached. They helped me get up. They took me to my room. They laid me on the bed. No one said anything, because there was nothing to say. That night, when it was already dark, I heard footsteps in the hall. My door opened. It was Brenda. She entered alone, closed the door behind her. She approached my bed. I was lying down looking at the wall, without strength even to turn around. Mr. Sterling, she said with a soft voice, almost kind. I'm sorry your son was not what you expected. She sat on the edge of my bed. But that is how things are. Children grow up, move on with their lives, and parents get in the way. She put her hand on my shoulder. That is why this place exists, so that families like yours can move on without the burden of caring for their old folks. I turned to look at her. Her eyes were cold, dead. And you, Mr. Sterling, are going to stay here forever. She stood up, walked towards the door. Rest well. And she left, leaving me alone with that truth. that I was never going to get out, that I was going to die here, alone, forgotten, erased, a week later. It was Friday. 4 in the morning. I was awake. I did not sleep well anymore. Nightmares did not let me. I was lying looking at the ceiling when I heard something. Engines. Several. Outside, I got up slowly. I approached the window, and what I saw made me think I was dreaming. There were lights, many lights, red and blue lights spinning in the darkness, cars, 4, 5, maybe more, and people. People with uniforms, with flashlights, walking towards the entrance of the house. I pressed my face to the bars of my window, trying to see better. Were they police? Or were they more of Brenda's men coming to take me to the downstairs ward? My heart beat so fast I could hear it in my ears. I heard footsteps running in the hall, doors opening, voices. What is happening? It was Martha. She came out of her room in a nightgown, disheveled, scared. I opened my door. We went out into the hall together. Other old people came out too. Samuel, Charles, Margaret, all scared. We went down the stairs, holding on to the railing, and when we reached the lobby, we saw him. The main door was open. Brenda was standing there in a robe, furious, and in front of her was a tall man, in a suit, with a gray mustache. He was holding some papers in his hand, and behind him were police officers, many police officers, and then the man turned. Our eyes met, and I could not believe it. Henry? My voice came out as a whisper. He smiled. Hello, Arthur. I came for you. Brenda tried to close the door on him. You cannot enter here without a warrant. Henry held up the papers. I have a court order signed by Judge Morales. Order of inspection and immediate intervention of this establishment for alleged irregularities. He took a step closer. Brenda stepped back. I come to inspect this place and interview all the residents. Now you have 2 options. Ms. Brenda Vance. His voice got hard. Open the door and let me pass, or I knock it down. What do you prefer? Brenda pursed her lips, looked at the police officers. There were 5, armed, serious. She had no choice. She stepped aside. Come in, she said with a voice of ice. Henry entered, the police officers behind him, and I felt as if finally I could breathe after weeks of drowning. Henry gave orders quickly. Take all the residents to the common room. I need to speak with each one. The police guided us gently. We sat in the armchairs. We were 11. 11 scared old people, confused, not understanding what was happening. Henry knelt in front of me. Arthur, are you okay? I nodded without being able to speak. We are going to take your statement, and everyone's, slowly, calmly. Okay? One by one. They interviewed us. Samuel showed the syringe marks on his arms. Martha told how her daughter had left her here 3 months ago. Charles explained that his house was sold without his consent. Margaret cried, telling that they dragged her to the downstairs ward and drugged her until she did not even remember her name. And me? I showed them the photos. The blurry photos I had taken at Brenda's desk, the receipts, the fake contracts, everything. Henry reviewed every photo on Charles's old Nokia. He pressed his lips together. He called one of the police officers. I need you to seal the office. Now. No one touches anything until the expert arrives. He turned to me. Arthur, I need you to show me where that office is. I took him. We went up the stairs, me in front, trembling, Henry behind, firm. We arrived at Brenda's office. The door was open. We entered. Henry took latex gloves out of his briefcase. He opened the filing cabinet, took out folders, reviewed them one by one. His face was getting more and more serious. This is enough, he said finally. This is more than enough. Fraud, forgery of documents, illegal deprivation of liberty, abuse of vulnerable people. He looked at me. Arthur, we are going to close this place, and we are going to prosecute all those responsible. We went down. In the lobby, Brenda was handcuffed. Carl, too. Ray, too. Lucy was sitting in a chair, crying, with her hands on her face. I just followed orders, she said between sobs. I did not know. I did not know it was illegal. A police officer was reading her rights. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. Brenda looked at me, and for the first time her smile had disappeared. In its place was hate, pure hate. This does not end here, she told me. Your son signed a contract. He paid in advance. He is as guilty as I am. Henry stepped between us. I will take care of that. Now shut up. The police took her away, handcuffed, with her head down, and I watched them put her in a patrol car. The woman who had tortured me for weeks. The woman who had taken my freedom. Finally paying. Henry turned to me. He hugged me tight. So tight I could almost not breathe. I am sorry, brother, he said with a broken voice. I should have known sooner where you were. I should have looked for you when Eleanor died. I should have. I shook my head. You are here now. That is what matters. I separated a little to look at him. His eyes were wet. Thank you, Henry. You saved my life. He smiled sadly. You would have done the same for me. And he was right. I would have done it. Because that is how true friendships were. The ones that do not abandon you. The ones that arrive when you need them most. Even if 15 years have passed without seeing each other. They took us all to a municipal shelter, a real place, with real social workers, with psychologists, with phones available, with unlocked doors, with windows without bars. Samuel called his grandson that same morning. He cried when he heard his little voice on the other end. Grandpa, where were you? I missed you so much. Samuel could not stop crying. Me too, sweetie. Me too. Margaret called her sister, who knew nothing of what her daughter had done to her. The sister came to get her that same day. She took her home, promised to take care of her. Charles contacted a lawyer to get his house back. Martha decided to stay at the shelter. Here at least I am free, she said, and I sat there with a phone in my hand, not knowing who to call, because I had no one. Henry sat next to me. Arthur, we have to talk about your son. I nodded. I knew that conversation was going to come. Michael is going to be summoned to testify. The documents we found implicate him directly. He signed contracts, made payments, transferred properties illegally. Henry took some papers out of his briefcase. This does not end here, Arthur. There is a legal process, and you are going to have to decide if you want to proceed against him. I looked at him. What do you mean? That you can sue him? For fraud? For abuse? For everything he did to you? Or you can let him only face administrative consequences? I stayed quiet, thinking. And if I sue him? Henry sighed. He could go to jail. 2 to 8 years, depending on how the judge sees it. My son. In jail. Because of me? But it was not my fault. It was his. Oh, I did not lock him up. I did not sell him. I did not take his house. He did it to me. I want to proceed, I said. My voice sounded firmer than I expected. Henry nodded. Okay, I'm going to prepare everything. That afternoon I felt weird, relieved but empty, free but alone. I had gotten out of hell, but the price had been losing my son. Well, losing the idea of my son. Because the real Michael, the one who really existed, that one had never been mine. That was a stranger who shared my last name. Nothing more. Martha found me in the shelter garden. How are you? I do not know, I answered honestly. I am free, but I do not know if that makes me happy. She grabbed my hand. Give it time. Pain does not go away overnight. And she was right. The pain was still there. Only now I could breathe through it. 2 weeks later, I received a certified letter. It was a summons. Preliminary hearing. Case Arthur Sterling versus Michael Sterling and others. The date, August 15th, 1 month. In a month, I was going to have to stand in front of a judge and testify against my own son. I was going to have to tell everything he did to me, look him in the eye and tell him, you betrayed me, you sold me, you erased me. And he was going to be there, listening, knowing it was true, knowing there was no way to deny it. I put the letter in my pocket. That night, I did not sleep. I stayed awake thinking about what I was going to say. about how I was going to find the words to explain the pain of being abandoned by your only son, the pain of discovering that the love you gave for decades was never returned, that for him you were always a nuisance, a burden, something to get rid of, and that now I was going to have to look him in the face and say goodbye. Forever. August 15th, 8 in the morning, I was standing in front of Family Court Number 3, a gray 5-story building with dirty windows. Henry was by my side, with his worn leather briefcase and a thick folder under his arm. "Are you ready?" he asked me. I did not know what to answer. How do you prepare to see your son in a court? How do you prepare to tell him in front of a judge everything he did? I took a deep breath. Let's go. We entered. The hallway smelled of old paper and burnt coffee. Our steps echoed on the tile floor. We reached the room. The wooden door had a sign. Room 3B, Judge Morales. Henry opened it, and there he was, Michael, sitting on the other side of the room in a black suit, gray tie, hair combed back. He looked at me, I looked at him, and I felt nothing, just emptiness. We sat at our table. The judge entered, an older man, white beard, thick glasses, serious expression. "Good morning." Preliminary hearing of the case Sterling versus Sterling and others. He reviewed some papers. Before proceeding, I must ask the plaintiff, Mr. Arthur Sterling. "Are you sure you wish to proceed with this lawsuit against your son?" The silence in the room was absolute. Everyone looked at me. The judge, Henry, Michael's lawyer, a young guy in an expensive suit, the secretary. I stood up slowly. My knees cracked. "Yes, Your Honor." My voice sounded firmer than I expected. "I want to proceed." Michael clenched his jaw, but he said nothing. The judge nodded. "Very well. Proceed, Mr. Miller." Henry stood up, opened his folder. "Your Honor, I present the evidence of the fraud committed against my client." He started showing documents. The fake contracts with the forged signature of my name, the receipts of the monthly payments made by Michael to the Sunset Pathways Foundation, the notarized document where I supposedly seeded my house, the fake medical reports from Dr. Armstrong, the photos from Brenda's desk, the testimonies of Martha, Samuel, Charles, and Margaret. Everything was there, black on white, proof after proof. The judge reviewed every document with attention, making notes. Michael stared ahead, jaw clenched, hands clasped on the table. His lawyer whispered things in his ear. But I saw how Michael swallowed, nervous, knowing there was no way to deny what the judge was seeing. When Henry finished, Michael's lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client denies all accusations." Mr. Sterling signed his admission to the foundation voluntarily. "My client acted in good faith, concerned for his father's mental health." He pointed to the medical reports. "Here is the diagnosis, progressive cognitive deterioration. My client only sought to protect him." Henry stood up abruptly. "Protect him? Protect him by locking him in a jail disguised as a spa? Protect him by stealing his house? Protect him by paying $6,000 a month to have him drugged?" His voice went up. "Those medical reports are fake. Dr. Armstrong already confessed that he falsified documents in exchange for money. Everything is in the file." Michael's lawyer opened his mouth to respond, but the judge raised his hand. "Enough. I want to hear from the plaintiff." He looked at me. "Mr. Sterling, approach." I stood up trembling. I walked to the front. There was a microphone on a stand. I stood in front of it. My hands gripped the stand so as not to fall. The judge looked at me. "Mr. Sterling, tell me in your own words what happened." I took a deep breath. I looked at Michael. He looked at me with a hard expression, cold, as if I were an enemy, not his father. And I started speaking. "My name is Arthur Sterling. I'm 82 years old. I was a physics professor at the State University for 40 years. My voice trembled, but I continued. "My son told me he was going to give me a weekend in a spa. A gift. I was happy. I thought finally he remembered me. I paused. But it was not a gift. It was a trap. I kept talking. The words came out alone, as if they had been stored too long. I raised my son alone. His mom, Eleanor, died of cancer when he was 8. I worked double shifts at the university so he would lack nothing. I paid for private school. I paid for his college. When his business went bankrupt, I lent him $50,000 that he never paid back. I sold my car to give him the down payment for his first apartment. My voice broke. And when I got old, when my knees started to hurt, when I was left alone in that house full of memories of his mom, he did not visit me. He did not call me. Until one day he appeared with a smile and told me he had a gift for me. I looked at the judge. That gift was locking me in a cage and forgetting about me. The silence in the room was so heavy I could feel it. No one moved. The judge looked at me with a serious expression. The secretary had stopped writing. Henry had wet eyes. And Michael had lowered his gaze. He looked at his hands. They took my cell phone. I continued. My keys. My freedom. They drugged me so I could not think. They locked me in a room with bars on the window. And when I tried to ask for help, they told me I was crazy. I felt tears running down my cheeks, but I did not wipe them. I saw them drag an older man, Mr. George, screaming, kicking, begging them to call his daughter. And no one did anything, because no one cares about old people. We are a nuisance, trash, something to hide. My voice went up, but I am not trash. I am a person. I turned to look directly at Michael. I do not ask you to love me. I know you do not love me. Maybe you never loved me. I do not know. My voice was calmer now, sadder. I only ask you not to erase me, not to pretend I never existed, because I existed. I took care of you when you were sick. I comforted you when we cried for your mom. I taught you to ride a bike, to swim, to solve math equations. A tear fell on my hand, and I deserve to end my days with dignity, not locked in a cage, not drugged into oblivion, not turned into a number in a bank account. Michael still did not look at me. I deserve something better from you, son. That is all. And I returned to my seat. I felt my legs so weak I almost fell. Henry held my arm. Well done, he whispered. The judge reviewed his notes, looked at Michael. Does the defendant have anything to say? Michael's lawyer whispered something to him. Michael shook his head. He started to say. Then he fell silent. He clenched his fists on the table. His knuckles turned white. He opened his mouth again, but nothing came out. He just lowered his head, as if the weight of what he had done finally fell on him. His lawyer stood up. My client exercises his right to remain silent, Your Honor. The judge frowned. Very well. He reviewed all the documents again. It took 5 minutes. 5 minutes that seemed like hours. The silence was deafening. Only the tick-tock of the clock on the wall could be heard, and my heart beating strong in my chest. Finally, the judge spoke. I have reviewed all the evidence presented, the testimonies, the documents, the photographs, and my conclusion is clear. There is sufficient evidence of fraud, forgery of documents, illegal deprivation of liberty, and abuse of a vulnerable person. He looked at Michael. Mr. Michael Sterling, you are ordered to immediately return the property located at 323 Maple Street to the plaintiff. You are ordered to pay an indemnification of $200,000 for damages, and it is ordered to open a criminal process against you for the crimes mentioned. He banged the gavel. This hearing is concluded. The case passes to the criminal phase. I could not believe it. I had won. I had won. Henry hugged me. We did it, Arthur. But I did not feel triumph. I only felt emptiness. Because I had won a case. But I had lost my son forever. We left the room. Michael left at the same time with his lawyer. We walked down the same hallway. Our steps echoed together. We reached the exit door. He was in front, me behind, and then he turned. Our eyes met. I expected him to say something. And I'm sorry, a dad, anything. But he just looked at me, with those hard, cold, dead eyes, and then he kept walking. He went down the stairs. He got into his truck and left. I stood there, watching him drive away, and I knew that was the last time I was going to see him. Not because I did not want to see him, but because he had stopped being my son a long time ago. Maybe he never was. Maybe he was just a stranger I raised with all my love, a stranger who never knew how to love me back. 3 months later, I moved to a small apartment downtown. 2 rooms, full kitchen, bathroom with shower. It was on the 3rd floor of an old but clean building. It was not much, but it had something I had not had in a long time. It was mine. There were no bars on the windows. There were no doors locked from the outside. There was no one controlling when I could go out or come in. I could walk to the corner store whenever I wanted. I could sit on the sidewalk to take the sun. I could live. Henry helped me move. Between the 2 of us, we took up my few things. A bed I bought used, a table, 2 chairs, some pots. I did not have much, but I did not need much. I just needed to be free, and I was. That first night in my new apartment, I could not sleep, but not from fear, but from happiness, a quiet happiness, like when you get home after a long trip. Martha also left the shelter. I got her an apartment in the same building, on the 2nd floor. Her daughter did not want to see her. She did not answer her calls. She did not answer her letters. So Martha decided she did not need a daughter who did not want her. She got a part-time job helping in a neighborhood stationery store. Every morning we drank coffee together in my apartment kitchen. We did not talk much, but we kept each other company, and that was enough. She taught me to make sweet bread. I taught her to play chess. We laughed at silly things, at soap operas, at noisy neighbors, at life. And little by little the pain became smaller. It did not disappear. It was never going to disappear. But it became more bearable, like an old scar that sometimes hurts when it rains, but no longer stops you from walking. One day I received a letter. It was from Margaret's granddaughter. Dear Mr. Sterling, my name is Caroline. I am Margaret Field's granddaughter. I want to thank you for taking care of my grandmother when she was in that horrible place. She tells me that you were very kind to her. I want you to know that I did not know where she was. My mom told me Grandma was on a cruise with some friends. When I found out the truth, I took her out immediately. Now she lives with me and my children. She is happy. She eats well, she laughs a lot, and she always asks about you. Inside was a photo. Margaret surrounded by children, smiling. She no longer had that scared look I remember from the spa. She had peace in her eyes. I kept the photo in my wallet, and every time I felt sad, I looked at it, because Margaret had survived, and so had I, and that mattered. Samuel was not so lucky. He died 3 months after leaving the shelter. His heart did not resist, but he died well. He died in his house, in his bed, with his 10-year-old grandson holding his hand. Do not go, Grandpa, the boy said, crying. And Samuel, with his last breath, told him, I'm always going to be with you, son. Always. Henry took me to the funeral. There were many people, friends, neighbors, family. The grandson read the letter Samuel could never send him, the letter with the $20. Happy birthday, Mikey. Buy yourself something nice, your grandfather who loves you. Everyone was crying. Me too. But I was not crying from sadness. I was crying from relief, because Samuel did not die alone in a cage. He died surrounded by love. And that was what mattered. That was the only thing that mattered. I never heard from Michael again. Well, that is not entirely true. I knew he had to sell his truck to pay me the indemnification. I knew he lost his job because he was on the news. I knew his wife left him. Henry told me these things from time to time. Do you want me to try to contact him? He asked me once. I shook my head. No. I no longer have a son. My son died the day he locked me in that house. Henry did not insist, and with time I stopped thinking about Michael. I did not feel rage nor sadness. I only felt nothing. Like when you think of someone you knew a long time ago and you do not even remember their face well. Michael became that for me. A blurry memory, a ghost of something that could have been and never was, and I was at peace with that. One afternoon, cleaning the apartment, I found an old photo Henry had brought me with my things recovered from the house. It was of Michael at 5 years old. He was in the garden with scraped knees, laughing with a ball in his hands. I was behind him, crouching with hands extended, ready to catch him if he fell. I stared at that photo for a long time, and I understood something. That boy in the photo, that one was my son. He existed. He loved me. He needed me. But he grew up, and when he grew up, he turned into another person, into someone I did not recognize. And that person, that one, was no longer my responsibility. I put the photo in a drawer. I did not throw it away, but I did not put it on the wall either, because that Michael stayed in the past, and I had to keep living in the present. One night, sitting at my window watching the city, I thought of Eleanor, of what she told me before dying. You do not give up, Arthur. Never. And I had not given up. I had fought. I had screamed. I had survived. Are you proud of me, love? I asked the air. There was no answer, but I felt something warm in my chest, like an invisible hug, and I knew yes, that she was proud, that she watched me from wherever she was, and that she told me, you did well, stubborn old man. You did well. I wiped a tear. I smiled. And for the first time in years, I felt at peace. Not happy. Happiness was too much, but at peace. And that was enough. More than enough. One day in October, they knocked on my door. It was a young woman with glasses with a recorder in her hand. Mr. Arthur Sterling? Yes. Who asks? My name is Danielle Ross. I am a journalist for the Daily News. I am investigating the case of the Sunset Pathways Foundation. I would like to interview you, if you accept. I hesitated. I did not want my face in the newspapers. I did not want people to see me as a victim. But then I thought of George, of Samuel, of all the old people who were still locked up in places like that. Come in, I told her. We sat at my table. Martha made coffee, and I told my story. Everything, from the beginning to the end. Danielle recorded everything, asked questions, took notes. When I finished, she had tears in her eyes. Your story needs to be told, she said, so this does not happen to anyone else. The interview came out 2 weeks later. Front page. The horror of clandestine asylums. Elderly sold by their own families. There was a photo of me. I looked old, tired, but dignified. The story told everything, the fake documents, the monthly payments, the drugs, the downstairs ward, the names of Brenda, Carl, Ray, and also the name of Michael. My phone did not stop ringing for days. People wanting to interview me, lawyers offering help, families telling similar stories. The same thing happened to my mom. My grandfather disappeared 2 years ago, and we never knew where he was. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for giving voice to those who have none. I did not want to be a hero. I just wanted people to know that this existed, that it happened every day, that old people are not trash. They are people, and they deserve dignity until the last day of their lives. After the article came out, investigations started. They closed 3 more clandestine asylums in the state. They rescued 42 elderly people, arrested 15 people, opened cases against 27 families. Laws began to change. Now there were surprise inspections. There were mandatory registries. There were harsher penalties for those who abused the elderly. Henry told me my case had opened the doors for all that. You are a hero, Arthur. I shook my head. I am not a hero. I am just an old man who refused to disappear. But deep down, I knew something had changed, that my pain had not been in vain, that maybe, just maybe, another old man somewhere was going to be treated with more dignity, thanks to me screaming loud enough for someone to hear me. Today I'm 83 years old. I no longer teach physics. I no longer walk so fast. My knees hurt every morning, but I am alive. I am free. And that is more than many can say. I know I'm not going to see the end of this fight. I know there will be more clandestine asylums, more families selling their old folks, More Brendas and more Michaels making money with other people's pain. But I planted a seed. I screamed when everyone told me to shut up. I fought when everyone expected me to give up. And even if I cannot change the whole world, I changed my small piece of the world. And that has to be enough, because at the end of the day, it does not matter how long you lived, it matters how you lived. And I lived with dignity until the end. So I ask you, friend who is listening, and you? Have you ever felt they wanted to erase you, that you were no longer important, that you were in the way? If so, I want you to know something. You matter. It does not matter your age. It does not matter if you are no longer so fast or so strong. You matter, and you deserve to be treated with dignity. And if someone tries to erase you, scream. Scream so loud that someone hears you, because old age does not take away your voice. It is the others who try to shut you up. But if you scream enough, someone always hears you. If this story touched your heart, leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you felt. Tell me if you know someone who has gone through something similar. And if you stayed until the end, subscribe to this channel. Every day I share true stories of people like you and me, stories of pain but also of hope. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe you save a life. Thank you for listening until the end, friend. See you in the next story.